The Heian era was the golden age of Jujutsu, with the likes of the Sun, Moon, and Star Squad, and the 5 empty generals pursuing Ryomen Sukuna to the very limits of his abilities. In today's video, we'll be exploring the untold secrets of the Heian era, and the story of who killed Sukuna, the most powerful sorcerer in Jujutsu history. The Heian era lasted from approximately 794 to 1185 CE in real Japanese history, but in Jujutsu Kaisen, it represents the absolute peak of sorcery. Think about it, the world was harsh and lawless. Quality of life was poor, and crime was rampant. The people of that time had none of the comforts of modern society or civilization. The widespread negativity of the Heian era created the perfect breeding ground for cursed spirits, and where there are powerful curses, powerful sorcerers emerge to fight them. This era was so significant, the techniques we see in the modern era of Jujutsu sorcery, like domain expansions, binding vows, and simple domain, all originated here. But here's what really makes it the golden age. The sorcerers of this time and the major clans operated with purely selfish ideologies. There was no Jujutsu High, or the barriers put up by Master Tengen. It was purely the survival of the strongest, and in that chaos, one man rose above everyone else. Ryomen Sukuna was revered as history's strongest Jujutsu sorcerer, but as time passed, he came to be known as the Disgraced One, and the King of Curses. Most villains aren't born as monsters, but Sukuna was horrifying even as an unborn child. His mother was starving and pregnant with twins, so Sukuna consumed his own twin brother while still in the womb just to survive. This gave him his four-armed, four-eyed, and four-mouthed form, marking him as an outcast from birth. Growing up lonely and treated as a wretch, Sukuna developed a deep hatred for humanity, and vowed to take revenge against them all. As he grew older, Sukuna became a Jujutsu sorcerer, but not to save the weak like the students of Jujutsu High. Sukuna lived to fight, to kill, and to prove his absolute supremacy. Sukuna single-handedly slaughtered thousands of Jujutsu sorcerers, who specifically honed their skills to defeat him. His most famous feat is annihilating both the Sun, Moon, and Star Squad, and the 5 empty generals, who were the elite forces of the northern Fujiwara clan. Sukuna also used the cursed tools Hiten and Kamutoke to take out the entire Deshi pacification squad, made of the Abe and Sugawara clans' elite fighters, in a single battle. These were the absolute best warriors of one of the most powerful clans of their time, and the big 3 sorcerer families of the modern period only exist because they went unnoticed by the King of Curses during the Heian era. The authorities of Japan were so terrified of Sukuna that he was invited to harvest festivals held in the capital and worshipped as an idol. They held festivals in his honor, not out of respect, but due to pure primal fear. Now it might seem a bit difficult to gauge the power of the sorcerers that Sukuna defeated, but we've actually seen a few of them during the culling games. The Sun, Moon, and Star Squad was led by Takako Uro, whose sky manipulation is one of the versatile curse techniques in Jujutsu Kaisen. She was only overwhelmed by the combination attacks of Yuta, Kurourushi, and Ryu, and would probably have been able to handle any one of them in single combat. Now, we won't get to see any of the 5 empty generals, but we do know that this elite task force was once defeated by Yorozu, another Heian sorcerer with the construction technique. Yorozu was obsessed with Sukuna, and was reincarnated into the culling game with the sole purpose of showing her love for the King of Curses. During the culling game, she challenged Sukuna and managed to keep up with the 10 Shikigami, but was unable to push Sukuna to use his own innate technique. The Angel, who incarnated in Hanakurusu's body, was a leading member of the Deshi pacification squad, and possessed Jacob's Ladder, the ability to negate any curse technique without prejudice. The Angel was so powerful that she could even negate special grade curses like the Prison Realm, and was able to unseal Gojo Satoru. She nearly forced Sukuna out of Megumi Fushiguro's body, but the King of Curses was one step ahead and forced her host to deactivate the technique halfway through. All of these sorcerers were reincarnated by Kenjaku through binding vows made 1,000 years ago, and every single one confirmed the same thing. Sukuna was unstoppable. Speaking of Kenjaku, we get to one of the most important partnerships in JJK history. Kenjaku isn't just some modern villain. He'd been body hopping for over 1,000 years, possibly even predating the Heian era. His curse technique allowed him to transplant his brain into different bodies, inheriting their memories and techniques while maintaining his own consciousness. During the Heian era, Kenjaku approached Sukuna with a proposal that would change everything: the ability to survive death. See, despite being the strongest, Sukuna couldn't escape mortality on his own, as he didn't have the knowledge to transform himself into a cursed object. But Kenjaku had been experimenting for years with techniques like cursed womb, death paintings, which could fuse humans with cursed objects. So they made a deal. Kenjaku would split Sukuna's soul and cursed energy into 20 indestructible fingers, allowing him to potentially reincarnate in the future. In exchange, Sukuna likely provided protection, or simply agreed not to interfere with Kenjaku's plans. But here's what's fascinating. Their alliance wasn't based on an ideological agreement. it was purely transactional. Kenjaku viewed Sukuna as a useful piece in his millennium-spanning game, while Sukuna saw Kenjaku as a means to keep on chasing the thrill of fighting strong sorcerers. This same technique would later be used on hundreds of other sorcerers throughout history, as Kenjaku made binding vows with them, promising reincarnation in exchange for becoming cursed objects. These sorcerers became the players in the culling game, Kenjaku's ultimate ritual to merge humanity with Master Tengen. The way Kenjaku set up the culling game is pretty incredible as well, since he went through a ton of preparation to get there. He went as far as possessing the body of Kaori Itadori, Yuji's mother, to ensure the creation of the perfect vessel for Sukuna's reincarnation. Kenjaku then possessed Geto Suguru to steal his cursed spirit manipulation technique, using which he consumed Mahito, and gained the ability to use Idol Transfiguration. Idol Transfiguration was the final piece of the puzzle to activate the culling game, as he gave hundreds of non-sorcerers the ability to use cursed energy. But now we get to the big question from the start of our video. How did Sukuna die? This is where things get interesting, because the answer isn't what you'd expect. According to the Jujutsu Kaisen canon, no one actually defeated Sukuna in combat, so how did he end up as cursed objects? The answer appears to be that Sukuna orchestrated his own death in order to be sealed by Kenjaku, as no sorcerer of that era could reliably defeat him in battle. But this leads us to a different question. Why would the world's strongest sorcerer willingly cause his own death? The clearest reason would have been boredom, because Sukuna had already defeated the strongest sorcerers and there was no one else left to challenge. But additionally, while Sukuna did not agree with the philosophy of the culling game, he would have been interested in the idea of evolution, as he was obsessed with strength and perfection. The final part of Sukuna's story is his most loyal servant, and the only person he showed any affection for, Uraume. Sukuna found Uraume when they were just a child, surrounded by many frozen corpses. It turned out Uraume possessed an ice manipulation technique, but he could not control it when he fell asleep, meaning that it froze everyone around him. Sukuna related to that feeling of being an outcast, and adopted Uraume to keep the meat he gathered fresh and frozen. After Uraume prepared a meal for him, Sukuna realized that the child was an incredible chef, and kept him by his side to prepare human meat for him. Uraume served Sukuna with absolute devotion, and was incredibly possessive of him as well. When Yorozu first met Sukuna and embraced him during the Harvest Festival, Uraume was quick to intervene and drive her away, even though she posed no threat to the King of Curses. When Sukuna accepted Kenjaku's binding vow and turned him into a curse, Uraume did the same, so they could be reincarnated by Sukuna's side when he finally returned. So far, we've covered the most powerful sorcerers who lived from the Heian era to the present day, except for one, Master Tengen. Tengen was already ancient during the Heian era, and while he might appear to be a cursed spirit, Tengen is actually an immortal sorcerer. Tengen uses a technique similar to Kenjaku's, which allows him to continue living for thousands of years, by transferring his consciousness to new human vessels. And while Tengen's specialization in barrier techniques technically makes him more powerful than Sukuna and Kenjaku, the problem here is that he refuses to engage in combat. However, we do see a demonstration of Tengen's Jujutsu mastery in the culling game arc, when he participates in the battle against Kenjaku by using his barrier techniques to negate Kenjaku's domain. If you really think about it, everything in modern Jujutsu Kaisen stems from the Heian era. The Six Eyes and Limitless that make Gojo so powerful were inherited from Sugawara's bloodline, while Sukuna learned of the Ten Shadows technique that Megami uses in the Heian era, and took over Megami's body just to master it. But despite the Heian era being called the Golden Age, modern sorcerers like Gojo actually surpassed many of their ancestors. This was because the chaos of the Heian era didn't allow for scientific study and refinement, and modern Jujutsu built upon Heian foundations, perfecting techniques over centuries. And that covers all the untold Heian era secrets from the world of Jujutsu Kaisen. Did we miss any of them? Let us know your thoughts and theories in the comments down below.